Yes, sir, we can. You sound great.
Amen. I have a new mic.
Man, yeah, you sound really clear. That's great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Sam's been telling me to get a new mic for like, I don't know, almost a year now. It's a very long while. But you know what, Kemet? This really like makes you feel as if you're like a news person. Mhm. You just see this mic with his hand, like, and I grab it. Really, I've started I've used it for the first time yesterday when me and Waj had an interview with Per Protocol on our show. Send it on Leviathan.
Huh?
Do you know it by chance? We have a new show there. We already made a few episodes. Well,
Okay.
we do like long talks with usually DeFi founders talking a bit about the projects and the team, like trying to really give teams and projects a kind of platform on Leviathan as well, where they can not only like deliver updates, but also actually share their stories, talk about the protocol, whatever. By the way, I really hope to have you guys on to talk FX first of all, actually. And pretty.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let me know whenever it's possible. But great to be on, and I'm telling you guys, like, get yourself one of these mics that actually, like, you can like put it, and you believe you become like it's like you start believing that you're more professional than you actually are. You know what I mean? Because you're like it.
Well, it's going to take quite a microphone to pull that off for me, sir.
Ah,
But
sir, if I feel like a pro, you should feel like a legend. Let's be honest.
oh boy, we've got yeah, I don't know if I can do it through my mobile because like I do the community calls through desktop, and so I've got a nice microphone set up for that. But for doing these spaces on mobile, I just have to use my earbuds for now.
But
So
you
hopefully I'll
know that,
sound okay.
by the way, I'm doing it on the computer now. Ever since like 3 or 4 times ago, I'm doing it on the computer, and unless I do something to interrupt, it works well. The previous
Uh-huh.
one, I had I don't know, I disconnected and then I couldn't get back in. I had to use my phone to get back in. But
Oh,
honestly,
well maybe I'll have to start trying that. Maybe they upgraded things.
yeah, I don't know. It works now.
Let's
Can
see.
we make?
Let's
I
see.
see my. Can we make him a
Yeah, let's
speaker,
see here.
or is he already?
I believe I've granted him. I'm going to make you co-host.
Oh, baby. Moving on up. Moving on up, guys. I'm already progressing. Oh, my God. I'm close.
Let's see.
Let's see. Let's see.
Hopefully, Mike, can you speak? Are you good to go?
Seeing myself as co-host.
Yeah.
Still seeing my just as a listener. Let's see if it
Yeah,
enables
I'm
me to see
trying
him
to grant him
somehow.
here.
I also see the Curvance profile. Maybe we can... Kai should be there. Apologize, folks, for the delay.
We're getting there.
Yeah. I believe that it won't take longer than an hour, and we'll start talking.
Let's see. All
Okay,
right,
there we
Abby.
go. Oh my god. Third time's the charm.
Did that really happen?
I had to leave, rejoin. Freaking Twitter, man.
Yeah, well, it's you take what you can get, right? So
That's
glad
true.
you're here, sir.
Definitely.
Oh
Wait a minute.
boy, yeah.
Who's on the like? It's Myra right now talking. A second ago.
Yep. Yep.
What's up,
Yeah,
man?
on
How are
mine,
you?
and I think Tay is on the Curvance account. I'm doing well. We're just heads down trying to get the next major catalysts out there. So big one's been like trying to get all the legal entity stuff up, which we finally just got confirmed like an hour ago. So now
Wow.
the system's going to be kind of ungunked there, which is good. So we could actually start announcing stuff because now we could actually lock in times, dates, deals, all that type of stuff. So
Cool.
after 10,000
Cool.
years.
Sounds like alpha. Honestly, it isn't.
Yeah.
I've been in the. I'm not active there, but the first time I entered the Curvance Discord, was really long ago, you know?
Oh yeah, this has been in development for like a gajillion years. I think this is like the 20th month of development, and like the
Wow.
actual idea we came up with like a bit before that. So yeah, but I mean, it's all like come to fruition. I mean, we finished up coding the core product in October. We've been auditing since August. We're gonna have our first public audit here pretty soon. Testnet soon. Gonna announce some grants that we got pretty soon. So, and when I say soon, I mean like I don't know, next week or the week after next. We'll
Oh,
announce.
like really soon. You mean
Wow.
not like soon?
Yeah.
That's without the trademark.
Not soon TM, like actually, yeah, actually
Yeah.
happening. So yeah, that'll be good. And then I think people are really gonna enjoy actually like being able to look at what's been built, because it's like one thing to be like, oh, we're building cool stuff, right? But actually to have people that kind of are worth their salt be able to look at it, dig into it, and be like, wow, this is actually compelling. I think it's going to be really cool. Like our GitHub has been private for this entire time. I think we're up to like 39 people on the GitHub.
Good Lord.
So yeah, we have everyone
Wow.
from like Wormhole to Mantle to Scroll, 1inch. Some of the teams we're working with like Balancer, one of the Curve guys
Wow.
on there, so on.
Well, I tell you what, how about we go ahead and get started maybe with some introductions. What do
Yeah,
you say,
for sure,
DeFi
for sure.
advisor?
By the way, what's the normal number or like the average number for people on GitHub?
What do you mean by that? Just like across?
No, because when you
like,
said it and
Yes.
KMET responded, I immediately realized that okay, that's probably like really a lot.
well, I think mostly you're going to have teams with like 2, 3, 4, 5 engineers, and then you're going to have like occasionally you'll throw on additional auditors or collaborators to kind of look at stuff. But we have a wide range of people, so I don't know, probably less than 10. I think maybe 10,
Yeah.
10-ish.
For comparison, AladdinDAO has about 3 or 4.
We got
Wow.
a lot,
So they-
but more isn't always better, right? There's some people that are just kind of like oohing and ahhing looking at the code, and then there are some people that are like, oh, you should, call the thing like this for the integration to be a bit better or something. It's like, okay, perfect. Because it's like we're working with a lot of like external tech, so who better to kind of give their blessing and look at stuff than the teams themselves. So that's been something that we've actively encouraged, is like having people jump on the repos and work with us on stuff.
So Mike, can you kind of give us an intro as to yourself, kind of your background and what your role is with Curvance?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Mai or Chris, whichever people prefer. I jumped on as the CTO of Curvance like 20 months ago. More recently, as the team's grown, I've stepped into more of like a management role for both like the development but also non-development sides of Curvance. Curvance has obviously been in development for a long time. It kind of first started out as this like third layer on top of Convex, and now is kind of a much more broad, kind of all-encompassing platform. We tap into not only things like Curve and the broad kind of ETH mainnet landscape, but also a lot of layer twos, tons of infrastructure providers. We're working with like every Oracle provider under the sun, tons of different dexes, tons of different chains. I think we're one of the things that sets us apart as pretty unique is like everyone's building so much infrastructure, but there's not that many people using the infrastructure. And we're actually working with all these different providers and building really cool stuff in the way that a lot of these groups are hoping for. So yeah, the team's grown a ton over time. We started very humbly, kind of on a shoestring budget. Me just kind of coding in the dungeon, the Curvance Floppies dungeon here for a while, and now the team's grown to over a dozen people. So yeah, everything's been going really well. We've kind of kept a lot of developments and stuff close to our chest for a while. We started being active on Twitter probably around 6 months ago, maybe a bit more than that actually. and we're finally getting ready to actually get stuff out there. Like I said, both like the security audit side, people being able to look at the code, which will be open source too, and then like actually being able to mess around with it with a test net that we're working on, which I think will be pretty compelling too, because it's like we kind of passed the typical Web3 DApp a while ago, and now we're working on a lot more kind of like Web 2-esque, making the application feel like your own and be a bit more cohesive and actionable than, just kind of like boxes with numbers. So yeah, I'll pause there. I just jumped between a few different things. Was there any other areas you wanted me to hit on there?
Oh, that's good. We just want to also maybe have Ty present himself a bit if he's on the Curvance account. I know it's speaking. And just one thing, guys, please notice that when you talk, that you actually talk to the mic, because, for example, now when you talk, there was at some points you were very loud, like you were very clear, and at some points maybe you were a bit far away from the mic, so didn't hear you that well.
Yeah, my AirPods on. I don't know how to. Maybe is that better?
Yeah, now it's better, but it's like I don't know. There's like a switch. Like sometimes we hear you in a certain way, and sometimes in another way. I have no idea how it happens. And either way, Ty, maybe you want to say a few words yourself as well. Present some of what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for
Yeah.
having us on. And hey, DeFi advisor, I catch you every morning
Well,
on Leviathan. But my name's Tay. I call myself the resident Sherpa at Curvance. I joined the team about 7 months ago. Been helping with marketing, comms, Twitter. Previously, my background was in public policy, and I've done some work with some DAOs in the space, mainly Pizza DAO. So super excited to be with Curvance, everything we're working on, and super bullish on Mai as a founder as well.
How does one go from public policy to DeFi? What does that transition look like?
Yeah, you know what? I think on the comm side of the crypto space, it's been pretty lacking overall. So there's huge opportunities for people that have backgrounds in communications. DAOs too, they're kind of like poorly run governments. So I'm always fascinated to get my hands dirty there and see how we can improve them.
You are speaking the truth, sir. Yes, all of that is absolutely true. I tell folks all the time that DeFi has a communication and education problem. We're really great at building stuff. We're not so good at maybe explaining it or simplifying it or I'm a big fan of analogies and metaphors, and I find those to be helpful. But yeah, no, that's fantastic, and we're glad to have you here today to hopefully make it so that everybody understands what Curvance is doing and what they're trying to launch here. So I mean, can you guys actually tell us a little bit about what is Curvance? What can we expect here in the near future?
Sure. Yeah. So first, I could also, so my background, I forgot to answer that too. My background's in traditional finance. So I was a quant where I worked at hedge funds building systematic like trading algorithms, basically investment strategies for, the big one was for merger arbitrage. And then I've worked at different buy side asset managers covering, tons of different securities. So bonds, like futures, foreign exchange, pretty much everything under the sun. I did a bit of equities, but mainly was focused on these more illiquid, tougher to price, tougher to trade assets, and how do you really get like best execution out of those, and work with portfolio managers and traders to kind of push the envelope forward there. But going back to your second question there on what Curvance kind of does, it basically is like a one-stop shop for any broad DeFi opportunities. So what I mean by that is like there's all these kind of cool things that people are building in DeFi, right? You have like option underwriting and providing liquidity to perpetual exchanges and all the work with AMMs and liquid staking, liquid restaking, all these synthetic assets, like so many different things people are building and it's kind of disjointed and hard to both tap into those opportunities and get capital efficiency out of the underlying value that people are creating or that they have, and to build like kind of hands-off, I guess, autonomous strategies. So an example would be, it's really easy to like provide liquidity on a different, any AMM, but it's really hard to like, say, borrow against that asset and buy a car, or to consistently take those rewards and reinvest them in a really seamless manner, or to, jump between chains to get the best yields available for some particular asset or position that you're in. Curvance really lets you do all of those more sophisticated actions in like inside one application, and also explore what opportunities are out there. So you don't need to get into the trenches on Twitter trying to find the latest and greatest opportunities, or try to catch the tail end of different narratives, or maybe incentive programs like Arbitrum's running their stiffs, things like that. So it's about really democratizing DeFi for users that maybe aren't totally in the know, and then also making that experience holistically better for everyone, both new and veteran.
You know what it sounds like to me is it almost sounds like, and correct me if I get this wrong, but basically, DeFi Llama is essentially sort of like the home base for if you want like just information in regards to DeFi. But it sounds like Curvance is sort of like the home base for doing things in DeFi. It's sort of like your starting spot. It's your home base. It's a place where you can do just about anything you want in DeFi. Is basically kind of sort of the picture it's getting painted at. Did I kind of capture that right?
Yeah, I think so. That's why we're putting so much focus on like the UI UX side, because like there are a lot of innovations and cool things we built on the technical side, the smart contract side, more mature versions of interest rate models and liquidity, kind of routing, liquidations, and all these different things. But the real meaningful kind of 0 to 1 step is going to be like a dApp that feels good to use and that can capture a lot of the things that you otherwise want to do, right? Because like, how many people have like gone to, they get ETH on Coinbase and then move it to their MetaMask or whatever wallet, and then they're like, how do I get onto this chain because I want to farm this thing, or I want to mess around with this new protocol. And then you got to figure out how to bridge there. You got to swap into the right things. You got to figure out how to get onto like a DEX or something to get in those native tokens. You swap into that. Now you're LPing somewhere else. You're depositing here for yield optimization stuff, whatever. Suddenly you have like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tabs open. You're, going through like 15 different transactions. Like, people are obviously comfortable doing that because they're experienced in it. But there's a good segment of people that, one, aren't comfortable with that or don't want to do that. But even for the veterans, like if you can kind of daisy chain all those actions together into one transaction or 2 transactions, and then also have like new optionality where you can borrow against stuff and, have stuff reinvested directly so you're not paying like exuberant gas fees, I think that's a lot more compelling than whether we've made like a 1% improvement on interest rates or, any of the other tech that we've built.
That is amazing. No wonder you guys have 39 people submitting pull requests to your GitHub. That is what an ambitious vision. Like I already am kind of a fan of sort of anything that pieces together the fragmentation of DeFi or crypto in general. It sounds like so. Kudos to you guys for trying to wrap your arms around it and build a vision towards that and make this a more approachable and user-friendly space. That is just, that's the biggest hurdle that we have. I mean, we talked about comms earlier, but I think just user experience and trying to reduce the complexity and the fragmentation is just gonna go miles. And so, kudos to you guys.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was really important to us was like building something that we'd want to use, right? Because I've messed around with tons of DeFi applications myself. Tons of people on the team have as well. And when you're kind of tapping into all these opportunities, you're like burning tons of money and gas, like things are all kind of janky. So it's like let's kind of, we understand those problems because we've gone through them ourselves. Let's like build the solution. So that's really the strategy we've taken, and that's also why it's taken forever to kind of build it, because we didn't want to just rush out like a partial solution. And it's obviously not going to be a silver bullet. These things take time, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of innovation that's continually pushed forward by like contributors, even after launch. But if we could get a 30, 50, 100% improvement over where we're at, I think that's going to be meaningful, and then we can keep improving on that model over time, and really hopefully have start like a new segment of DeFi innovation that's more around like making it actually approachable rather than trying to like get these 1% improvements into like mathematical models and stuff. Because that's how you're going to actually onboard the next, million, 10 million, 100 million people.
I agree. I've been talking to some founders recently, luckily. By the way, someone that you guys maybe know, because it sounds like that you're building something a bit similar. I mean, on the same narrative. I mean, not really similar. On the same omnichain front. I'm talking about TW Matt from Tapioca. You know him.
Yeah, I know the Tapioca guys. They're building some really cool stuff.
It's also like I'm asking it because they also have like a big vision of defragmentation, I think, on many aspects, right?
Yeah, they're focused on a bit of a different market segment than us. Like they're obviously a CDP platform, so they're kind of tapping into like the kind of unified liquidity of like DeFi stablecoins, right? So kind of fixing the fragmentation there. Whereas like we would be a party that potentially works with them on building that like deep liquidity.
That's so cool.
So I think we're both working on like really, I would like to think important problems to solve. But it's also cool to see that like there's so much to do that we're not really kind of stepping on toes, and we're both moving the industry forward.
For sure. It's also built on layer 0, by the way, Curvance?
No, we're built on Wormhole actually.
Okay.
So we're working with Wormhole and Circle. So Wormhole is for the cross-chain messaging piece of like, for example, cross-chain voting escrow, distributing fees. Cross-chain is in collaboration with Circle, so moving value. For cross-chain borrowing, it's both, right? So it's moving the information with Wormhole into Circle. Their kind of 20-minute delayed CCTP burn and mint structure that lets you like move pretty much unlimited size cross-chain anywhere, which is really good for a lot of the issues that we've had around how do you move fees cross-chain for a lot of people? How do you let people borrow cross-chain without like running the risk of, say, having data on one chain and another, and then like the sequencer goes down or something. So that combination between both teams, Circle and Wormhole, has been really good in kind of solving for a lot of the issues that we've wanted to solve for a while that really haven't been available, right? Obviously, we've been building this now for 20 months. These solutions were not available 20 months ago. So we've been able to like continually improve and scale out what we're doing to be more seamless, more scalable, and a bit more approachable for people.
When is it supposed to come out? Is there any date on it?
So we haven't made a date public yet, but we'll most likely be starting the first public security audit in probably I would like to think the second week of February here. And then we basically have to see how that goes, right? If everything goes well, then we have that competition fixing the issues and then the last blitz of audits. And then the beta would be live. So you'd be talking like probably April-ish, if I had to guess, maybe a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit later. But, exact dates we'll be announcing like as we can really deliver on them confidently, because it's like always better to under promise and over deliver. We don't want to just like kind of throw out broad dates and then suddenly we're moving them forward or back. It's not great.
You mentioned a public audit. Is this like a competition of sorts, or something? Who's running that?
Yeah, so we've been working with 3 auditors so far. We've been working with TrustSec, which is made up of like all the best security researchers in the space. Y Audit, which is like I don't even know what you'd call it, but essentially like a spin-off of Yearn. And then TrailofBits, who are, pretty well known in the Web 2 and Web 3 space on the security researching side. The competition will be with Cantina. So we've been talking with all the providers, Coderina, Sherlock, even things like Secure3, Cantina, obviously. Cantina with us, some guidance from Spearbit gave us the most compelling kind of collaboration there. So we're going to be moving forward with them. And yeah, it's going to be a relatively large pot. It's also going to be probably the longest competition audit that's been done. I think currently the longest have been around 4 weeks. Ours is going to last 6 weeks. And it's also probably going to be the largest on lines of code, but, we'll know when it's actually live. Everyone could do the math on that. But we were told that it looks like it'll probably be the biggest from Coderina. So pretty cool to see. Pretty big code base, I guess.
That's so cool. How long is the competition supposed to last?
That one's 6 weeks. So that'll be 6 weeks and then a 1-week judging period. And then we'll know pretty quickly, whether we're like really close to launch or whether we need to pump the brakes a little bit and dig into auditing more. But we started auditing in August of last year. So, I mean, we're already 5 months in. Code base is very mature already. And we have like a pretty substantial like testing suite for everything. We've built unit tests, which are like basic functionality tests, integration tests using like live on-chain data, stateless fuzzing, where you just blast like tens of millions of permutations of numbers into functions, and then more recently stateful fuzzing with TrailofBits, where you're like basically, I think our current runs, we run like between 80 and 100 million different permutations of like inputs into the code every weekend to try to like break the contracts. So we've only been able to find one edge case so far that we fixed like a month ago from that. So I don't know if that's a great sign or a terrible sign. It's great in that there's very few issues we're finding, but it's also not great because we're putting in all this time, effort, and money into building all these tests, and then we only found one small thing to fix from the stateful fuzzing. But it's been a really good experience. We've been doing that part with TrailofBits, and they've actually been using Curvance internally, from what I've heard, to do a lot of like debugging on improving their applications, like their open source applications, specifically Medusa, which is like their newest flagship product for all this like advanced testing stuff.
Sounds like an honor.
Man, that's amazing. Yeah, Aladdin, with Protocol FX, we have we audit everything, and so we go through these audit rounds, and they're not quite as comprehensive usually as something like Coderina or TrailofBits, but we will actually be doing TrailofBits on FXUSD, which we'll be releasing here in February. So that'll be a big one. So very excited for that, and it is a very detailed audit. For folks that don't know, that's basically the I would say sort of the sort of the peak. It's sort of like as far as audits go, like that's a big one to have. So I'm learning about it as we go as well. And I don't write code personally, at least not Solidity, but it's interesting to hear about that, and it's really great to hear that you guys are putting such an emphasis on safety and security before launching. I think that's you don't see that from a lot of teams,
Yeah.
I don't think, but it's really great.
Yeah, we don't want to launch and then have like a Peck Shield, Peck Shield tweet about us,
Yeah,
about like
can you
some
look at
exploit
it?
or something like day one.
Hey
Yeah.
guys,
Might
by the
want to
way.
check this out with a
Yeah.
transaction, and you're like,
So
okay.
yeah, if we could avoid that, that would be excellent. But I think for us, it's gonna be actually a lot of fun to be able to like do deep dives into this. Like we're gonna write all this stuff up for. We're gonna do a security week for this competition, and kind of dig into all the stuff we kind of talked about here in more of like a long form piece about like all the work we've done with the trust guys, why audit on like stateless fuzzing and trail bits with stateful fuzzing. But yeah, I mean, it is going to be a pretty substantial set of audits. I don't know if it's like quite the most rigorous. I'm sure there's like some, chains out there, some protocols out there that have done even more comprehensive audits than us. But I'd like to think we're doing everything we can to make sure that it's as safe as possible for people to use day one.
By the way, I think that from what I'm talking to a lot of teams, I think that many teams are like postponing these like major audits or stuff like that many times simply because they can't afford it. Or also, I found that to some of them, there's like huge waiting lists as well. Like people are waiting. They tell me over a year to get a specific like report from a specific auditor. So it kind of leads me to another question that I want to ask. Like, what actually made it possible for you guys to work behind the scenes for so long, like you do, so diligently? Like, what I mean is someone has to be paying for it, right? So I'm kind of curious, actually, and only if you can share, of course, about like where's the money actually come from? Is it from a wormhole? Is it from other places? Like, what can you maybe share? Because to actually be able to create such a meaningful and huge protocol that requires such a huge code base. It's going to take like a lot of people, a lot of money. Someone has to pay for all that.
Yeah, no, we are spending a ton of money. I mean, part of it's been like negotiating directly with, the providers and trying to make it compelling for them. I think one thing that's definitely helped us is these auditors want to work with us because we're building novel tech. So, from their perspective, it might be better to like a better opportunity to learn and showcase their skills than them kind of spending time auditing the 80th
Interesting.
fork of whatever, right? So that's one piece. I mean, we did obviously raise capital through our seed round. We are getting some auditing support from Wormhole as well, graciously from them. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything. It's being thrifty with our funding. It's the seed round from the capital that we raised. It's support from some of our partners. And, as I was saying earlier, we have a ton of people from all these different teams on our GitHub. So one of the things we also ask a lot of our partners is as we're integrating with their stuff, like who better to, look at an integration and make sure that it's like sound than the people that wrote that code themselves, right? So, just last week we finished integrations for Oracles with Redstone and API 3. So we had engineers from Redstone and API 3 review those. So, it's also like supplemental help there that, becomes a little bit more kind of effective than us just trying to slam a bunch of code down in front of like auditors that maybe is a bit more, fresh and less mature than it maybe should be at that stage. So I think that's helped. And then it's also just kind of eating a lot of it ourselves, right? Like I coded the majority of the code base myself here, and that takes time, right? So it would have been easier if we could just throw unlimited money at, tons and tons and tons of engineers and just kind of rush through everything, but it was also about kind of kind of ramen noodle style funding for a while. So we've been able to keep our costs down relative to a lot of other platforms out there.
Nice. By the way, it also brings them back to another point you mentioned earlier, and I always really like it, and I think it's the ideal situation in my mind as an investor, and of course not financial advice and all that stuff. I really like it when a founder is actually building something for them to use. Like I think it's the purest situation to build in, and I think it keeps the founder like this guy or woman. They're gonna build this no matter what, because they actually think it's really important, and they're not finding like anything close enough for it. So they feel the need and the desire and the responsibility to build it and perfect it themselves. And I think it's actually a situation in which founders actually thrive in.
Yeah, another thing that I will say too is our next stage is the test net, where we're going to be able to have a lot of people start messaging like direct feedback to the team, either directly on like Discord, Telegram, whatever, but also in submission forms where people can kind of throw their own 2 cents in. That's something that's going to be pretty important to us, like that we have this test net period, so that we can make the application feel really good, make the kind of way we're conveying everything feel really seamless for like a new user, and really kind of get those that like 8 out of 10 improvement into like a 10 out of 10 really polished platform, day one of beta. That's the goal anyway. So everyone's going to be able to kind of put their own spin or their own kind of views on how we can improve Curvance as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm curious. You guys, you're talking about going through audits, and then you mentioned at the very beginning something about some legal legal status, and then go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, so basically what that is we're obviously going to be a DAO on launch, and we're getting these grants, right? And some of us are in the U.S. and such, so it's about like how do you structure all this stuff in a legally compliant way? How do you make sure that the DAO has like autonomy over whatever assets, it generates? How do you make sure that like people can properly engage in like governance and all this stuff, and actually managing the Curvance protocol and kind of being the arbiters of that long term? And then also, how do we properly kind of receive these grants in a way that like it can be allocated in the way that they're supposed to be? So that obviously is just a huge lift that a lot of people don't really think about, and that frankly we should have done a little bit sooner, but it was definitely a learning process for us as we've gone through that. So finally at the tail end of that now, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. I'm also kind of curious as well in terms of you basically said that most of the code base is pretty much completed now at this point. And it sounds like Curvance itself is going to be pretty broad, like we said, kind of a home base for DeFi users. Is it going to be like rolled out in stages, or kind of like, do you guys even have like a game plan for that now, or what are kind of the expectations for users sort of at this point?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So originally, it looked like the beta was going to be just one chain with Ethereum mainnet, but more recently it looks like we'll be able to do like a multi-chain release for it. So I imagine that over time, we're going to release kind of the least, I guess, aggressive, asset support, right? So that's like the really deep liquidity, less long tail stuff day one and kind of like systematically roll that out over time, more chains, more assets, more ecosystems, and so on. What exactly that workflow looks like is obviously controlled by the DAO. And, we might end up having support for tons of different things that maybe never brings it to market because it doesn't, like the DAO doesn't want to, right? Maybe it wants us to double down on certain areas, and that, maybe becomes like the predominant focus over time, right? Usually you want to double down on your winners, right? So maybe we see particular chains do extremely well, particular ecosystems do very well, and then maybe the DAO wants to double down on those. But I imagine it's going to be kind of getting out a lot of initial technology and seeing what the appetite looks like, and then like continually just building out additional support in those successful areas.
That's Aladdin kind of does the same thing, in terms of we build products that we want to use ourselves. I'm fairly convinced that a concentrator was built because yield farming was kind of a bummer, having to collect all these tokens, and they might not have been tokens that you wanted, and so that's where concentrator came from. And same thing with Clever is how can we kind of leverage up our yield opportunities. And then obviously with FX, where it was like, hey, maybe having all these centralized stable coins is not the best idea. I wonder if there's a way we can do it where it's more decentralized. And so that's where, Aladdin's always built its own things that it wanted to use, and of course is focusing on those that are promising, and which is, all of them have been pretty successful so far. Yeah, it's really good to hear that you guys are, kind of open to everything, and I guess you kind of have to be in this space of just sort of moving with how things fit into the market at a certain time. So that's really cool. I'm kind of curious, what can users do right now in order to sort of like, follow along, kind of prepare for launch? Like, what are you guys doing to kind of keep people engaged in Curvance's development?
Tay, do you want to maybe talk on this? I know you've been spearheading a lot of the pre-launch stuff here.
Yeah, so definitely encourage folks to claim partner roles. We have a partner role set up on Guild XYZ for AladdinDAO enjoyers.
Nice.
We have a bunch set up on there, so you should be able to qualify through at least one of them. You only need one. Otherwise, if you don't have a partner roles or can't get one before we launch, feel free to just pop into our Discord. We're going to be running some contests to give out invite codes over the next couple weeks. We're rolling out our testnet invite website, so folks that have been in the community for a while now and have roles are going to be getting access to that. So just stay tuned, and we'll be sharing more in the coming weeks here.
Nice. By the way, guys, and Kmets, maybe you can even address that one as well, because I'm kind of curious, what kind of new possibilities are gonna be for for a project like Aladdin that has already 3 products, and hopefully some more are coming in the future. But Kmets doesn't share that kind of alpha with me because he knows that I might be too anxious to share it. But what I'm actually asking is, what kind of new possibilities will open up for protocols like FX, Clever, or Concentrator, or any other protocol that you may think of? Maybe you can give us a few examples, guys, for how is this game going to be different once you guys are hopefully out there just like you are envisioning, and what kind of new possibilities are not going to be only for the end users, but also for the protocols themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's really 2 pieces here, right? There's like the Curvance technology stack itself and potentially building on top of it. And then there's for the ecosystems themselves that we integrate with. So for the latter, we obviously have this cross-chain gauge system. So it becomes a lot easier for new chains to be supported in different ecosystems. So for example, maybe you have a product that's on Ethereum mainnet and you know, eventually you're like, well, we want to expand to new layer twos or something. Maybe you want to expand to like Arbitrum. With a lot of current models, you then kind of need to like assemble all these other additional tokens and, you know, governance strategies for these layer twos. But with Curvance, you could just use you know, vote lock tokens on Ethereum, and you could literally pick up the lock and move it to Arbitrum, or you could just directly vote for Arbitrum from Ethereum. So that means like as new chains want to be supported, as new pairs want to be supported, as new actions want to be supported, it becomes really easy to just kind of use that power in whatever way people feel that it will be optimized, right? So because of like the cross-chain gauge system, that unlocks like new chain expansion, and then you could also facilitate like different behavior. So, you know, in a typical DEX or something like, you know, that that are the most heavy users of voting escrow systems, you could really just vote for people to deposit into an LP. In Curvance, you can basically direct emissions to like any action. So that could be like depositing single-sided tokens. That could be complicated like LP tokens. That could even be lending against those assets, right? So maybe there's someone that has a ton of size that wants to borrow against that asset because they are really bullish on it and they want to size up for whatever reason. They could then technically vote for the other side. So, you know, lenders of like USDC in that market, for example, and then that can incentivize new people to come in and lend against that asset without them just having to like, you know, borrow up to like 100% utilization or some of these high numbers where they're paying like obscene interest rates. So that's like another opportunity there. It's just more efficient at potentially scaling up activity in a ecosystem. In addition to that, like it becomes a lot easier to onboard people to a particular ecosystem because there's a lot of work that's been done on visibility. So like, for example, pools that have the highest level of boosting, like via vote emissions, will have like, you know, basically space on the top of like the markets page. So there's like user discoverability there. And everything's also easily searchable between like different chains, different markets. You know, it becomes really easy to kind of compare apples to apples, like what opportunities are out there. So maybe, you know, people feel like they've built all this cool tech and they're kind of shouting into the void of like, you know, hey, come check out our stuff. We have these crazy yields and crazy opportunities. It creates like a new way to actually get your products or, you know, assets in front of people that isn't really currently possible. And then the last piece is like building on top of Curvance itself, right? So we have this like very, I guess, new structure for like how you can vote on different chains. So there's people that are going to be building liquid wrappers, obviously. We already have one group that's pretty aggressively exploring that. There's also the opportunity to tap into like the cross-chain fee distribution. So we're talking with chains where chains potentially want to incentivize people to move their locks over to that chain because that means more fees are directed to their chain every 2 weeks, which means more volume, which means more TVL, which means more activity investments in their native products. So there's like a new kind of entrant into the like voting escrow system beyond the protocols themselves. It's now like chains can actively participate, which as we've seen this year, there's tons of new chains launching every single day. And there's only so much liquidity. So these chains are going to have to continually kind of PvP to try to like be in the crypto zeitgeist and, you know, benefiting from tons of liquidity. And we're seeing that with chains like Blast and Manta that are putting out very aggressive incentives. And there's going to be all of these chains looking to see how they can like kind of peel off liquidity from other networks beyond just like airdrop speculation, giving grants to teams, or even like short-term incentive programs like we've seen with Arbitrum. So there's been a huge appetite from chains on that front. And then there's obviously just now you have like tons of really customizable markets, no rehypothecation. So you can build like really cool strategies. People could build like index tokens on top of Curvance and leverage strategies and reinvestment strategies and, all sorts of like kind of opportunities that you really can't tap into otherwise. Like, for example, you could now just make like a liquid staked ETH BTC ratio token, because like there's probably going to be a market with liquid staked assets, and then you can borrow wrapped Bitcoin or some other wrapped Bitcoin equivalent there, like TBTC, and then now you can just long ETH BTC in like a direct manner while getting staking yield. So lots of cool stuff. I just said a lot there, so I'll pause if you have any questions on that or any thoughts.
That really sounds like a lot, you know? No, I mean it from a place
It's
that
awesome.
you guys are
Yeah.
really going for a very big vision, it seems.
That's the goal. Got to aim big.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you mention something about cross-chain boost from VE tokens? Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically the voting system is cross-chain. It aggregates your votes across all different chains. So like if you have 1,000 VE tokens on Ethereum, 1,000 on Arbitrum, 1,000 on Optimism, you now have 3,000 votes that you can direct to any chain. And then all those votes are ported on chain, and basically all the gauges are updated biweekly through like basically wormholes, automatic relayer paired with Gelato Network's bot network. So, and it's all done like in a very heavily validated manner. That was actually one of the things we've worked most closely with the auditors on, is like, how do we make it so like if, for example, like Wormhole or Gelato Network or somehow like a network got compromised, how is everything like tamper proof? And we think we've done a really good job with that. So becomes like really scalable for, we could be on 30 networks. Do I think we're going to be on 30 networks? Probably not. But theoretically, it could be really easy to scale up, and the system just becomes as easy. It's seamless as if it were on one network or two networks.
Where are you, can you share where are you intending to focus first? Because like you said, and at least in my mind, I don't see the point of being currently, like in the way things are, on 20 or 30 networks. Because I think that a network should actually, like a protocol should actually be where liquidity is. And if there's no liquidity, or only like, something too minor, I think it's usually not worth the time and effort, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's also really difficult to predict what chains will be the major kind of pillars of the future. But for us, it's like we have a lot of chains that want to work with us, and a lot of potential opportunities there, and we could kind of tap into like whichever ones we think are the most compelling, and kind of scale up from there. I think it also, because of the system that we built, it doesn't really matter whether a chain has like a gajillion TVL or maybe a bit less. But there are certain chains that we're most excited about. I think the ones that are like no-brainers for us is, definitely Arbitrum.
Yeah.
We've been working really closely with Off-Chain Labs. They directly invested
Oh, wow.
in us. We also will be announcing a grant from them
Nice.
pretty soon. So there's some alpha. And we're huge like Arbitrum bulls. Same with Polygon's also working on some really cool stuff with their Polygon CDK system. So we've been working with them. We've been talking with groups like IMX, OKX. Whether all of these chains are integrated or none of them are, it's hard to say. But we're talking to Polygon about a lot of potential integrations there. We're pretty excited about Polygon ZKVM, which they haven't really been, I don't even think it's mainnet yet, technically. I think they're still in a beta. But I think as they bring out a lot of that vision, people are going to actually be pretty compelled to mess around with Polygon ZKVM. And then there's like, the more like decentralized, like retroactive public goods focused stuff like Optimism and Base, where we're going to be supporting like Velodrome assets, Aerodrome assets, and such that are really like the backbones of these chains. And we're going to try to help them become a bit more efficient and scalable. And then Ethereum mainnet is a ton of liquidity, right? So that basically gives you Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, Polygon zkVM. We're also talking to Blast. We're talking to Mantle. We're talking to Scroll. We're talking to zkSync. Talking to Monad. I mean, pretty much every Berachain. We're talking to like all these chains, but which ones make it in, really becomes a function of the support from those teams.
Yeah, I agree. It's with interesting projects and the amounts of chains that are out there today, a chain needs to be able to attract protocols to build there. Whether it's with a thriving ecosystem, or whether it's with any kind of incentivization. Like, I don't think that, especially with the amount of chains that keeps popping up on a weekly basis, it seems like people are not just gonna, at least in my mind, just gonna come and build them. They will come just like with anything else in the market and in life, pretty much. They will come where the incentives are. When there are incentives, people will actually come.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's one of, like, you just highlighted one of the easiest value propositions of Curvance is like when you see all these new kind of incentives open up on a chain, it becomes like kind of hard to figure out like how you effectively tap into those opportunities, right? Like how many people are trying to like figure out how to like airdrop farm chains or like benefit from like incentive, periods. It becomes a lot easier if you're able to be like, well, there's this like super well audited, super mature code base that, taps into like a lot of broad different opportunities. I'm going to just I want to mess around with Scroll. I'm going to just use Curvance. I want to mess around with Blast. I'm just going to use Curvance. I want to, tap into liquid restaking with EigenLayer. I'm going to just use Curvance. I want to tap into like providing liquidity on, a lot of these new like ambient or Curve, like all the new Curve tech that's coming out, we could just use Curvance. Balancer V3, you could just use Curvance. Like that's the goal that we have in our head, that it's like it just becomes a no-brainer for tapping into like different DeFi ecosystems and opportunities, because Curvance kind of lets you like easily kind of move and benefit from those opportunities there without all the like 18 different tabs, tons of slippage, trying to figure out how to bridge over to somewhere and stuff.
Well, let me tell you, like, if you can pull something like that off to really like attract people to see you guys as the hub to do a lot of their DeFi activities, personally, I think it's one of the biggest holy grails in crypto. You know what I mean? Because the app that will, if at some point there will be such an app that like really allows the user to do most of what he wants to do, most of what they want to do in one place, without having to go all around and trying to find it, how to do specific activities, and they can go to one website instead of like, I don't know, today when you want to do some DeFi stuff, you probably go to 30, 40 websites on a nice session of a few hours. So honestly, I think it's a huge target. I think it's very important also on the adoption aspect of things, because like we're willing to go from dApp to dApp because we realize the opportunity, I think, and we realize that the industry is so young, and we realize a lot of the like advantages that this situation has for us as early users, actually. But in order to really bring in the masses, they need it simple. They need to, click this. They don't want, to be honest, the way I see it, I don't think they want to know that there's a thing called networks. You know what I mean? You just tell them network, all that stuff. Like that.
Yeah, man. It's like, I use the example of like the internet. Basically, you used to have like people when they first were messing around with the internet, you would use what they would call like root access. You'd be directly connecting to the internet. Now you definitely don't do that. Now you use an internet service provider and you like piggyback off of all of their stuff. That's kind of how we see like future state Curvance, is like being able to use all these different chains and stuff, but it's abstracting away a lot of the fundamental like complexity there, right? Where it becomes really easy to move chain to chain, where you suddenly become kind of chain agnostic, or it becomes really easy to like just as easy to get into like a whatever, like convex boosted curve, try pool, like try crypto pool versus like just getting like wrapped staked ETH or something. If we could get to the point where it's like just as easy a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, whatever it is process to do that, I think that's really where you're going to see like a broader usage of DeFi beyond the as you said, like the kind of DeFi native people that see the vision and are willing to deal with the extra headache associated with tapping into the latest and greatest like DeFi
That's
primitive.
Wait, guys,
Couldn't
Emmett,
agree
do we have a
anymore.
few minutes
Go
more,
ahead.
or do you want to already? Because I want to.
No, if we still have like some
I want to
questions
ask
or
one
whatever,
more
please
thing.
go
If you
ahead.
guys are not in a hurry to already end it, my entire. I'm kind of curious about the CVE token itself. Maybe if you can share some small, like for example, when Curvance is going to launch, is CVE going to be launched at the same time? And also maybe you can share a few words about I don't know, the tokenomics, the revenue model, like what should people expect? I know that I know what I'm thinking that's going to happen, but I have no idea what you guys are actually planning to do. So maybe you can shed some light
You
on that.
got some pretty large scale questions for us. So we've announced some of this. We're actually going to get our Docs V2 up. They've been done for a while now, but we need to run them by like our legal counsel to make sure they're totally comfortable with all the language and stuff in there and the structure. But broadly, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have testnet. Participants in testnet will be like the first users that are able to get. We're going to probably do like a point system similar to a lot of other platforms we've seen. Originally, we were going to do call options actually on chain.
Nice.
Our legal counsel absolutely despised that and told us we should not do that. So we're no longer doing that because apparently that's like 1,000 gajillion % of security having call options. So alpha to you there if you're thinking about tapping into any protocol with call options.
Interesting. I actually think that quite a few projects are now going to go that route. Very interesting. The point you're raising, I haven't encountered it before. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's apparently one of the like most slam dunk cases of a security. So that terrified the shit out of us. So so we're going to be going through like a testnet period where people can submit feedback. It's going to be like a staged approach. So first we're going to do like a closed testnet for like a few days, invite only with like invite codes. Then we're going to do partner roles, which I believe we created one for ATeam and the broad AladdinDAO ecosystem. And then it's going to be like open to anyone for a period. So people can mess around with everything. They can't do everything in testnet. Like, for example, a lot of the really complex like zapping stuff that we have doesn't work on testnet because 1inch's solver system isn't on testnet. So we just can't do it. But all the like kind of more cross-chain focused stuff, like all the different markets and interest rate models and Oracle systems, all that stuff should be in. So they'll be able to get like a good view of like what Curvance can do, at least at a surface level. After testnet, we'll be going into a beta. That's on mainnet and like a bunch of other chains, the ones I highlighted before, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon zkVM, Base, potentially Blast. And then people will be able to just use Curvance. Everything's going to be live at that point. But rather than having on-chain emissions, it'll be like point-based. It'll scale, linearly as using the protocol. We built like what we call like the watcher system, which basically lets us look at all on-chain transactions and abstract like or pull out a lot of different characteristics of action. So like when someone's depositing or when someone is like leveraging up or when someone's zapping or someone's lending or someone's, liquidating someone or whatever, like we can basically ingest all that data and then do a bunch of math on it and output like continuous points for people, similar to like Blur. And at the conclusion of the beta, people would be able to use those points to potentially get some benefit. And then there would also be a LBP for building like on-chain liquidity across a bunch of different chains, because we want CV to be liquid on multiple different chains instead of just having like a ton on Ethereum and then, maybe not very much on other chains. And then the gauge system basically will start. So then people can immediately lock those tokens or whatever, hold them, smash them, put them in a stew, whatever they want. And then they can start like voting cross-chain, directing emissions to particular pairs, whether it be depositing collateral, depositing debt assets, so on. We also potentially will have some like on-chain incentives from partner projects as well. We built like what we call the partner gauge system. Basically, people can build gauge systems on top of our gauge system and then emit rewards, kind of almost like Sushi Swap, but a lot more mature than the original liquidity mining stuff of like DeFi Summer. So again, people can create rewards for depositing collateral, depositing like lending out assets, or even more sophisticated stuff with like our watcher system, where maybe people want to incentivize like particular like tick ranges and like different actions. Like we could capture a lot of that stuff off chain and then stream those rewards on chain via like a, call it like weekly, bi-weekly Merkle tree or something for people to claim. So I just threw a ton of information at you there. The other thing you were asking was like how the token works. Yeah, lock the token. There's a max 1 year vote lock. It doesn't have like the kind of choose the duration of lock. That was pretty intentional because the way emissions work in Curvance is a bit different than other protocols. You can basically choose liquid tokens or locked VE tokens at a max lock. So it's kind of like a benefit for people that just want to TWAP, dump the token because it's good yield. They could do that. But then also protocols that want to accumulate a ton of CVE actually are going to be accumulating it at a much faster rate than those people that are just claiming and dumping. There's like this mode that we created that we call like the continuous lock mode, which basically keeps it at that 1 year max lock, gives double fees, gives additional voting power, and they don't need to relock it at all, but they could turn it off at any time, and then it's just a normal 1 year lock.
That's a very cool feature.
So you could like kind of flip it on and off. Yeah, so you don't need to like pay gas on any network and continue like up for max voting power. It's just going to like leave it at the max there. You can pick up locks and move them to any chain at any time, although there will probably be like a few hour blackout window at the end of epochs just for eventually when the incentive market's out. We want to make sure that there's no like weird edge cases. So there might be like, a few hour period where at the end of an epoch, you're like kind of stuck on that chain. Although that shouldn't impact any of the incentive stuff. It's just to make sure there's no like accounting exploit type stuff. We're going to most likely be building our incentive market with Redacted. We're actually having a call this week to kind of start scoping that out. We need to build some more sophisticated stuff there because it's a cross-chain gauge system, so it's a bit more complex than typical voting escrow systems. And we'll see how that goes. It'll probably not be live day one, probably come out a bit after, maybe like how Prisma did it. And yeah, we also have like being able to early expire lock like Prisma as well with like a massive penalty that goes to the DAO. All yield generating opportunities auto compound, a portion of the fees get taken out there, and those go to VE CV lockers as USDC. USDC is bridged to any chain via CCTP through Circle, so you can lock your tokens on whatever, Optimism, and then you'll benefit from fees generated on Ethereum, Arbitrum, Polygon ZK, Base, Blast, whatever chains we're on. You get fees from everything equally, so you don't need to like choose what chains. You just lock on one chain and you get everything.
Man,
which
that's
means
cool.
It's probably better to lock on layer 2s than layer 1s because you're paying way less in gas. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's cool. No, that's first of all, that's a lot.
Wrapped
That's
for like 5 minutes there.
yeah, I'm sure. First of all, I'm sure it's not it, but that it really is quite a lot. And like I've said earlier, I think you guys have have taken upon yourselves a very ambitious task. And honestly, some of the stuff that you're mentioning is very interesting. even from just the basic user standpoint of just make things easier to handle and cheaper and like I don't know, just better numbers for some of the users, especially I think because if you and this is also sounding like something very like comfortable to use and to be actually able to um, have stuff locked on one chain but earn the rewards there on another chain. I don't think I've ever encountered it. Like I've yet to encounter anything like it in crypto, and it sure is an interesting direction. Never even thought of that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think it sounds like we have covered so much ground here today. I'm kind of curious because I want to go read up on Curvance. What's like the best way to like for folks to read up on it and kind of wrap their arms around everything that you guys have done or are proposing to do?
Yeah, great question. So we are going to have Docs V2 up, hopefully in I don't know, the next week. We just need to get everything kind of blessed by legal, is like I was saying. But there are docs currently up. They're a little bit out of date, but you could definitely take a look and kind of look high level at that. We do have a bunch of our partners and stuff on our site, which is just a kind of neat little thing we put together. We have a little Tetris thing in the bottom left too that people can mess around with and stack blocks and stuff too. We do have a lot of content. I went on a few podcasts recently where I talked about some stuff in kind of equal detail, maybe a little less detail than this actually. So you guys can check that out. What was the most recent one that went out today? Was that Exponential DeFi?
Yeah, that was released today with Exponential DeFi on Degen Responsibly. So it's about 40 minutes long if folks want to give it a listen.
Yeah. So that's another good one to check out. Definitely follow us on Twitter, join the Discord. We do kind of nonchalant, bi-weekly little updates on the Discord stage there. We've done that more recently. We're not trying to really push massive participation in any of these things, but we want to be available when people have questions, thoughts, concerns, ideas, whatever. And then, like I said, once now that the legal stuff's done, we could actually start putting the pedal to the metal on a lot of these other things like testnet and the security audit. So we're also going to be putting out a ton of content with Spearbit and Cantina on all the technical innovations, like how the dynamic interest rate model stuff works, the new liquidation engine, all the cross-chain stuff works, how all the tech kind of works, both from a technical aspect, but also a high level, I'm just curious and I want to kind of ooh and ah at the how stuff works angle.
It's amazing, man. I'm looking forward to learning more about this, and just you guys have such an ambitious vision, and I think even just in this conversation alone, myself and DeFi Advisor can obviously recognize sort of the use case and the immediate use case for it, and I think you guys are you're going to have a lot of attention, and hopefully it's a real smooth rollout, and 2024 is just a banger year for you guys. Yeah. So
hopefully it is for DeFi broadly, right? We had the ETF finally got approved. We got the halvening this year. Maybe ETH ETF. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and appetite for DeFi again this year.
absolutely, and Aladdin's doing it part by we'll be rolling out FXUSD here in February. Woo! Actually. So gonna be a pretty cool one to have come out, and I think that might be a good candidate on Curvance at some point in the near future. That'd be pretty cool.
Get us an Oracle, get us some liquidity, and we can see if we can set up some tech for all that.
That would be cool, man. Well, DeFi Advisor, any other remaining questions?
No, not a question actually, but I do. I did just think of something when Mai mentioned the ETFs, and who knows what's coming next. What about the VE ETF? That's the kind of ETF I think that TradFi actually needs. Only legit VE tokens locked, They can't even sell it. And they're just earning the yield. One day, maybe one day. Either
I'm curious to see how liquid wrappers also develop, because that's another thing that's been top of mind for us is like integrating some liquid wrappers like like CBX CRV, for example, and kind of looking at how these long tail assets really perform in the next cycle. I'm curious to see if we see the models change or anything, because as I said, there's a few groups that are looking at building liquid wrappers for CVE. So who knows what those look like in the future.
gonna be cool. Honestly, gonna be cool. Wish you guys a lot of luck with what you guys are building there. Much respect for all the work you guys have been doing for so long and the effort that so many people are doing over there, especially these 39 people on the GitHub grinding daily.
Well, it's mostly it's a grab bag.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
Right?
joking.
Like mainly the engineers for Curvance is much smaller than that, but we have our auditors that we're working with directly on all the testing stuff, making sure the code's good, and then all of our partners and such that are kind of like looking at the code and seeing if there's ways we can improve it, any issues or ideas that they have. Like there are a lot of people that are interested in things like the cross-chain fee distribution and such. We're looking at building some like white glove stuff with some pretty large parties in the space too that we can't really talk about just yet until we like kind of nail those things down. But there's definitely an appetite for a lot of the tech that we built, and we're going to be open sourcing a lot of it. So a lot of people looking at that like kind of early look at it.
Cool. You see, K-Mets, if we do it for, if we take the Apple episode long enough, we make it long enough, the alpha starts coming out, They can never resist themselves, They know they want to tell it. They know they want to share it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do with you, because you want to share it with us as well. You also know, and us, the public, we know it too, K-Mets. We know it too. Either way, guys, really enjoyed coming over. Appreciate your time a lot. Appreciate what you're doing. Wish you guys a lot of luck. Hope we catch up soon. And make sure to let us and everyone know once you have some more alpha to share. And and when you have any kind of date that you can start announcing. Of course, thanks to everyone who's been listening as well. Some familiar faces in the crowd. IW, man, this guy should get like the Pulitzer Prize of listening to Spaces. MDU as well. Skate Wedgie is already on. Thanks, really, everybody. This is quite an honor. Feel free to share feedback on what we do, by the way. We appreciate it a lot. Tell us the good stuff. Tell us the not as good stuff. We really want to know what you guys think. Also, tell us who you want us to have on the A-Team. Feel free to try participating on that aspect as well. And of course, my lovely host, K-Mets, the Honorable, a core contributor to AladdinDAO, and I think that I won't be exaggerating if I say that for many he's becoming like the face and the voice of AladdinDAO in so many ways, at least leading one of them. Appreciate you a lot, man. Thanks you for doing this with us. And guys, have fun, whatever.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely, DeFi Advisor. Thank you, sir, for your insights today. Thank you so much, sir. It sounds like you guys have got your hands full, and Tay as well. So, best of luck as you guys power through. And I hope you guys have a cool celebration planned for yourselves once this thing is live and active and everything. So I think you guys deserve it. So.
Yeah, I gotta take some time off for sure. I've been taking like one day a year off Christmas for 2 years in a row now. But we're gonna be at Denver, and a lot of the team's gonna be there. So hopefully that'll be like good for the team to kind of hang out and relax a little bit there. And if any of you guys are there, feel free to come say hi to us. We'll probably be at a ton of different side events. And I'm sure our paths will cross.
You see, when serious teams, what do they call a vacation? Going to eat Denver. They call it a vacation. You know what I mean? Yeah, yes, guys. You will have some time off when I take you to work at East Denver and to promote in any possible way around the clock.
No, everyone gets time off when they need it. We're not like
Okay,
slave drivers here.
I'm
It's
kidding,
just
man. I'm kidding.
I gotta hit the deadlines here.
Respect.
We get it, man. It's DeFi, baby. You got to do what you got to do,
The
right?
contest. Honestly, don't let them tell you otherwise. While you're building it, someone else is probably trying to build it faster as well. That's the simple truth, honestly. So much respect for what you guys do. And of course, I'm joking. Really proud to be in a space with such diligent people. I think that maybe one of the things I admire the most about the crypto space is just how diligent people are, especially seeing like, I don't know, young people. They're like sometimes under 20, and they're already like, I don't know, like so many brilliant folks around. Really appreciated all your input here today. Ty as well, and of course Ty, I remember now. I know, by the way, just one more small thing, guys. I apologize that I keep dragging it. I just realized that Ty from Curvance is the same Ty that watches the Leviathan streams on a different account with a similar name. And man, this is one of our most esteemed viewers out there, honestly. So much respect and thank you for that as well. And looking forward to hear more from the Curvance team very soon.
Thanks for all you do, guys. Take care.
Have a good one,
Thanks
guys.
very much, everybody. We will we'll catch you around the bend a little bit. So have a great day. And if you missed a portion of this, it'll be recorded, so you can access it whenever you like. Thanks again, sirs. You guys have a great day.
You too. Bye,
You too.
folks.
All right. Bye.